When I came home, I realized where our family ranch is situated is the highest population of minority producers in the United States. With that being said, I can just imagine if we're not in production agriculture, what that community is going to look like. It's no longer going to be as existing. So for me, it's a personal reason. For me, it's my neighbor. It's all the neighbors around me that have been there all their life. And they were situated there because they were sharecroppers. How are we going to be inclusive of the underserved community when it comes to the change of the evolution of geographic spectrum of the world? There's a lot of cost involved in it, and those costs are going to be so effective that the small producers are no longer going to be effective and be in production agriculture. I really concentrated on these small producers because there's some out there and they're dwindling, and we really don't need to lose anymore.
Today we're in a period of even more rapid change. So the time horizon that people are having to make these investment decisions, whether or not it's to buy another piece of property, to put up a barn, or as a lender, do I lend capital out to a farmer? All these things are happening faster and more rapidly than we've ever experienced before. I think data is one of the biggest things that's enabling us to do more and to understand more. As lenders and capital providers, we understand more about the land today and the practices today than ever before. And producers have same access to that data, and in many cases, they're the ones generating this data and use it every day to make decisions. But one of the challenges with all that data is what do you do with it? And how do you verify it? How do you validate it? And how do you standardize it to really leverage all the information that you get? There's always opportunities out there for ag and farm and food producers to seize, and lenders to help finance and provide capital for those changes. And you're seeing that more and more in investments from universities, investments from bankers to try to get more opportunities for farmers and rural Americans. And it's something that wasn't really there 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and we're starting to see it really develop into more opportunities in that rural landscape. And it's exciting for me to see as someone who came from a small rural community.
So what are those systematic approaches that we need to look at to make sure these small producers can stay in production agriculture? It really is about preserving the history of the community. Culture has a value. You might not make the profitability at first, but in long term, you really will have a value because you have some dedicated customers, and you really have a story that might help the business plan itself.
We spent a lot of time talking about how the supply of agricultural commodities, and therefore connected to food, might align with prospects for global demand. And at the end of the day, the intersection of those two is what largely determines prices. We're in a time where we've already seen a fair amount of inflationary pressure over the past year, and many households and businesses alike are concerned about inflation and ultimately the cost of things that are required to either operate on a regular basis or to maintain their own levels of consumption.
So my dad would say, sometimes hay in the barn is worth more than money in the bank, because when you have money in the bank, it won't always buy you hay in the barn. When the hay crop is simply not there, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank, you can't buy hay. So you have to be prepared, and you have to be able to forecast those and hope that your bottom line can withstand that. So wise words that have been generation deep in our ranch, and probably now a little bit embedded in that DNA and how we approach our business. I am a hay hoarder, yes. There's always hay in the stack yard.